General Hospital spoilers for the week of September 15th to 19th state that Jason Morgan will face a terrible choice, while Giovanni Gio Palmieri and Emma Scorpio Drake enjoy a kiss. Rocco Falconeri will also get to visit Britt Westbourne, so let's talk about what's next on the ABC serial. For starters, Molly Lansing Davis will struggle with her affections for Cody Bell, despite her efforts to drive him away. As Molly continues to write her romance novel, her Cody-inspired character will serve as a reminder of what she is missing. Gio and Emma are on the verge of having their first kiss. Emma and Gio will take a brave step out of the friend zone, so let's hope this love turning point works out for them. Over with Portia Robinson, she will strive to maintain her marriage to Curtis Ashford, at least until the recent Drew Kane storm passes. However, Isaiah Gannon's friendship with Portia will ultimately lead to more temptation. Across town, Harrison Chase's inquiry will cause friction in his own relationship. Chase's support of Willow Tate, combined with unanswered doubts regarding Michael Corinthos, may drive Brooke Lynn Quartermaine crazy. Michael is banking on Jacinda to provide an alibi, but there may be more obstacles along the road. Drew seeks revenge on Michael and will make a disaster for him as a result. On another subject, Jocelyn Jackson S. Vaughn will be unable to keep their hands to themselves after their risky adventure. Passion appears to be rekindling, therefore Vaughn and Jocelyn will have to keep their relationship hidden from Jack Brennan, who would disapprove. Speaking of Brennan, it appears that he will do whatever it takes to secure the Charlotte Cassadine visit that Valentine Cassadine has requested. Lulu Spencer has so far refused to accept it, but this could change in the near future. Of course, when it comes time to see Valentine at Steinmauer, Charlotte will most certainly have her own set of expectations. Next, GH teasers state Jason will be in a difficult situation, because Jocelyn does not want him to reveal her WSB employment. Despite Jocelyn's request for Jason's silence, can he truly hide something so important from Carly Spencer? And if he does, how long will he be able to maintain the secret? Anna Devane will investigate Britt's return, as well as Nathan West's, as he will be back in the picture soon. In the interim, Rocco will have the opportunity to speak with Britt and interrogate the lady who gave birth to him, even if the circumstances were dubious and unpleasant for Rocco's parents. According to General Hospital spoilers, Lulu and Dante Falconeri will not approve of Rocco's growing fascination with Britt, so stay tuned for updates on how they will respond to this news. General Hospital teasers for the next 3 weeks indicate that Michael Corinthos may have some much-needed leverage. As Port Charles, Jason Morgan, Britt Westbourne, Jocelyn Jackson and S. may be forced to make some difficult decisions. Vaughn will collaborate to complete the story in Croatia. Port Charles is about to make a surprising return. Jason will convince Britt to divulge her survival when she arrives in Port Charles. Liesl Obrecht will be overjoyed to have her back home. Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer's lives will be flipped upside down when Britt arrives. Of course, Jacinda will probably sell herself and her testimony to the highest bidder because she is all about money. Michael needs her to provide an alibi. Will she back him up? Jocelyn and Vaughn's relationship will grow closer during the week of September 15th to 19th, but they will have to keep it hidden from Jack Brennan. Jason will be faced with a difficult option because Jocelyn is attempting to conceal her WSB existence, and will undoubtedly require his assistance in doing so. Did Jason keep this knowledge from Carly Spencer? Drew Kane may still be in danger if the person who shot him wishes to finish him off. Drew will be ready to speak with the cops as soon as he wakes up. What will he tell them? Rocco Falconeri will be thrilled now that Britt has returned home. Rocco never expected to meet her, and now, despite his parents' desires, he has the opportunity to sit with her and get to know her better. Ryan Pavey will return to set for the week of September 22nd to 26th. Anna Devane will be concerned that Caesar Faison is somehow involved in one or both of his children's survival. Anna will have another case to investigate. What will she find out? Willow Tate may fool Harrison Chase. Willow cannot be trusted, and everyone knows it. Chase, what will you do to aid her? Brooke Lynn Chase will be quite disturbed about his relationship to Willow. Michael could end up making the decisions for Willow instead. The next 3 weeks will be packed with spoilers and unexpected turns. Come here for anything G. Check back frequently for General Hospital news, spoilers, and updates. Jason sat on the edge of his worn-out couch, the springs creaking beneath his weight as he peered blankly at the flickering television screen. The room was poorly lighted, with only the screen and a single lamp in the corner emitting a slight buzz with each flicker of its aged bulb. His hands lay on his knees, fingers drumming in irregular rhythm, revealing the tempest of ideas churning in his head. He hadn't moved in what felt like hours despite the clock on the wall, its second hand ticking ceaselessly, telling him it was just 20 minutes. Time stretched as the weight of a decision pressed down on you like a 1,000-pound anvil. Jason's predicament wasn't just terrible. It was the kind of catastrophe that might destabilize everything he'd spent years attempting to hold together. It all began a week ago at Maple Street's annual summer block celebration. The air was filled with the smell of cooked burgers and sunscreen, with children running around with sparklers and parents sipping cheap wine from plastic cups. Jason had been there largely to keep an eye on his younger sister, Emma, who was 16 and had a tendency for getting into trouble. She was supposed to help with the face painting booth, but Jason knew she wouldn't stay put. Emma had a wild streak, and the spark in her eyes reminded him of their mother before she left. He was scanning the crowd for her when he noticed Emma kissing Gio beneath an ancient oak tree at the park's border. Gio. The name alone made Jason's stomach turn. Gio was 19, a local youngster who had dropped out of college after one semester, and was now working at an auto shop during the day and doing God knows what at night. He had a reputation, nothing specific, just rumors of late-night parties and dubious friends. Jason had never liked him, but Emma? She was smitten. The way she stared at Gio, wide-eyed and flushed, made Jason want to grab her by the shoulders and shake her senses awake. But he had not done it. Instead, he'd halted, watching Joe's hands slip down Emma's back, their mouths locked in a far too intimate manner for a public park. Jason had turned away, his jaw hard and his hands clenched, knowing he couldn't make a disturbance without embarrassing Emma in front of the entire neighborhood. That moment was horrible enough, but it was hardly the worst of it. The true gut hit came when Jason discovered Rocco had also seen them. Rocco, the quiet, lanky child from down the street who had been following Emma like a lost puppy for years. He stood near the bounce house, his face pallid and his eyes wide with something resembling treachery. Rocco had always been a soft-spoken boy who would rather read a book than throw a punch, but his expression that day was raw and unprotected. Jason recognized the look. It was the kind of sorrow that may drive someone to do stupid things. Now, a week later, Jason was still unsure what to do. He couldn't simply ignore it. Emma was his responsibility ever since their father became ill, and their mother left. At 23, Jason was barely holding it together, working extra shifts at the warehouse, paying bills and keeping the fridge filled. He didn't have time for this type of drama, but he couldn't say no. Emma was his sister, and he swore to watch out for her. But how was he expected to manage it? Confront her about Gio? She'd simply shut him out, perhaps even running to Gio out of malice. And how about Rocco? The youngster was a wreck, having not left his house since the neighborhood party. Jason had spotted him yesterday, sitting on his front porch and staring at nothing. He hadn't spoken anything, yet the impact of his silence was more powerful than any argument. Jason fell back, the couch groaning again, and wiped his palms across his face. He could still recall Emma's face when she returned home that night, full of smiles and secrets, her cheeks flushed from more than just the summer heat. She hadn't mentioned Gio, and Jason had not inquired. He wasn't sure how to bring it up without starting a quarrel. Emma has always been stubborn. If he pushed too hard, she would dig in her heels and lose any trust she still had in him. However, doing nothing was not an option either. Gio wasn't just an innocent crush. There were stories, rumors about drugs, fights, and a car that was totaled under questionable conditions. Jason had no idea how much was accurate, but even a little portion of it made him anxious. Then there was Rocco. Jason didn't know him well, but he always seemed like a kind kid. He was the type who would mow your lawn without being asked or help carry groceries for the elderly lady next door. Emma had never given him the time of day, not in the way that Rocco clearly desired. Jason had noticed how Rocco looked at her, as if she were the only one in the room. It was the kind of dedication that could destroy a person if it was not reciprocated. And now, after seeing her with Gio, Rocco was devastated. Jason wasn't sure if he should talk to him, attempt to smooth things over, or simply let him handle it on his own. What could he possibly say? Sorry you saw my sister making out with a guy who's bad news? That would not solve anything. The TV flickered again, this time showing a late-night ad for a blender that claimed to improve your life. Jason snorted, then grabbed the remote and muted it. He needed a plan, not a mixer. He could try to chat to Emma, but he'd need to be cautious. She had always been adept at avoiding inquiries she didn't want to answer. Maybe he should start simple, inquire about her day, and see if she brings up Gio on her own. But what if she does? What was he expected to say? Stay away from him? That would be extremely unpopular. Emma disliked being told what to do, especially by her older brother. Another alternative was to go directly to Gio. Jason disliked the idea of confronting him, it was not his style, but if it meant saving Emma, he would do it. The trouble was that he didn't know enough about Gio to predict how he'd respond. Will he back off? Laugh it off? Or worse, would he lash out at Emma? Jason's stomach turned with the thought. He'd met guys like Gio before. Smooth talkers who knew how to manipulate situations to their advantage. If Jason went after him too hard, it may backfire and push Emma closer to him. And then there was Rocco. Jason kept coming back to him, not because he was a problem but because he felt accountable in some way. Jason couldn't get rid of the vision of Rocco at the block party, despite the fact that he wasn't his brother or his responsibility. He'd been standing there alone, while the rest of the neighborhood laughed, ate, and danced to music blasting from a portable speaker. Jason wondered if Rocco had told anybody what he had witnessed. Probably not. He did not appear like the sort to spread rumors. But that did not imply he was fine. Jason considered knocking on his door to see how he was doing, but what good would it do? He couldn't make Emma like Rocco, nor could he erase what Rocco had witnessed. The clock ticked on, each second a reminder that Jason had a limited amount of time to solve this problem. Emma will be home soon. She had been out with friends, she said. Jason didn't want to worry about where she was, but the thought crept in. Was she with Gio right now? Were they gone somewhere, hiding in the shadows like they'd went to the park? The concept made his skin crawl. He rose up and paced the small living room, his boots scuffing on the ancient carpet. He needed to do something, anything, to keep the situation from spiraling out of hand. He thought about their father, who was sleeping in a hospital bed across town. He'd been unwell for months, in and out of consciousness, leaving Jason to manage everything. If Dad were present, he would know what to do. He'd always known how to chat to Emma without making her feel cornered. But Dad wasn't present and Jason was not him. He was merely trying to keep his family together. The front door creaked open and Jason froze. Emma went inside, her rucksack thrown over one shoulder and her hair a touch unkempt. She looked at him, shocked to see he was still awake. "Hey," she began, her tone nonchalant as if nothing was wrong. "Why are you still awake?" Jason opened his mouth and then closed it. This was his chance, but the words did not come. He wanted to know about Gio, what she was doing and why she was sneaking around. But all he could say was, "Just couldn't sleep." Emma shrugged and kicked off her shoes. "You worry too much," she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She went to her room, leaving Jason standing there, his predicament greater than ever. He fell back into the couch, the TV still flashing softly. He couldn't keep sitting and waiting, thinking the problem would solve itself. He planned to talk to her tomorrow, really speak to her, and maybe he'd check on Rocco too. But for the time being, all he could do was sit in the dark, listen to the clock tick, and ponder how he would keep his sister safe without pushing her away permanently. The following morning, Jason awoke to the sound of his phone buzzing on the coffee table. He had fallen asleep on the couch, his neck tight from the unnatural position. His supervisor sent him an SMS reminding him that he was covering an extra shift today. Great. Another day of hauling boxes while his thoughts were focused on Emma, Gio, and Rocco. He dragged himself into the kitchen, where Emma was already up, pouring cereal into a bowl. She appeared exhausted, with shadows under her eyes, but she said nothing about last night. Neither did he. Work was a blur. The warehouse was sweltering, the air dense with dust and the sound of machines. Jason carried containers, stacked pallets, and tried to concentrate, but his mind kept wandering. He imagined Emma sneaking out to meet Gio, her laughter ringing through some dark part of town. He imagined Rocco sitting alone, replaying that scene from the block party over and over. Jason was fatigued by the conclusion of his shift, but he knew he couldn't put this off for any longer. He drove straight to Rocco's house, which was small and tidy with a well-trimmed garden. Rocco's mother answered the door, her smile pleasant yet exhausted. "He's in his room," she explained, pointing down the corridor. Jason thanked her and gently knocked on Rocco's door. When it opened, Rocco looked worse than Jason had expected. Pale red-rimmed eyes as if he hadn't slept for days. "Hey," Jason said, feeling uneasy. "Can we talk?" Rocco shrugged and moved aside to let him in. The room was crowded with books and comics, and a guitar leaned against the wall. Jason wasn't sure where to begin, so he just dived in. "I saw you at the neighborhood party." Rocco stiffened his jaw but remained silent. Jason pressed on. "I know about Emma and Gio. I saw them too." This elicited a response. Rocco's eyes flickered up, filled with rage and pain. "She's your sister," he explained, his voice low. "Why don't you do something about this?" Jason exhaled. "I am trying. But it's not that simple." Rocco shook his head and turned away. "She doesn't even see me," he said, almost to himself. "She never has." Jason didn't know how to respond. He wanted to convince Rocco that Emma was not worth this kind of anguish, and that he was better off letting her go, but the words seemed hollow. Instead he replied, "I am working on it. I simply need you to hang in there. Don't do anything stupid." Rocco didn't say anything, but he did nod slightly. Jason exited, feeling like he had accomplished nothing. He drove home, his thoughts whirling. He needed to talk to Emma, but he wasn't sure how. When he arrived home, she had gone out with friends again, according to the note on the fridge. Jason's irritability boiled over. He grabbed his keys and went outside, determined to find her. He checked the usual places: the diner, the park, and the arcade. There is no indication of her. Finally, he drove to the auto shop where Gio worked. The club was shutting, and the lights were dim, but Jason noticed Joe's car in the parking lot. Emma was in the shadows by the side of the building. She was giggling, her head bent back, as Gio came up close and whispered something into her ear. Jason's hands tightened around the steering wheel. He wanted to storm over, drag Emma away, and tell Gio to stay the hell away from his sister. But he did not. He sat there watching, his heart racing. He couldn't make a scene, not here or now. But he couldn't continue doing nothing. Over the next few days, Jason attempted to communicate with Emma. He began with simple questions about school, her friends, and anything else that may entice her to open up. She was evasive, giving him vague responses and fleeting smiles. He didn't push yet, but his patience was running out. He also kept an eye on Rocco, stopping by whenever he could. The child remained aloof, but he appeared to be improving, as if he was beginning to digest his emotions. Jason wasn't sure whether that was good or terrible. Emma arrived home late one night, her eyes bright and her movements wobbly. Jason was waiting with his arms crossed. "Where were you?" he inquired, his tone rougher than he had intended. "Out," she muttered, putting her luggage onto the couch. "What is it to you?" "Emma, I am serious. Were you with Gio?" Her eyes narrowed. "What if I were?" "You're not my father, Jason." It hurt, but he pushed through. "I'm trying to watch out for you. Gio is not a good guy." "You don't know him," she snapped. "You don't know anything." "I know enough," Jason replied, his voice rising. "I know he's a troublemaker, and I know you're sneaking about with him. I saw you at the block party." Emma froze, her cheeks pale. "Were you spying on me?" "I was not spying. I was there and saw you. So did Rocco." Her eyes widened, and for a second she appeared guilty. But her expression stiffened.